Alright guys, here we go again. So today what we're going to do is work on another project, but this is going to be a longer series of videos because we're going to be building a whole infrastructure for a web application, right? So in this specific project that we're going to work on today, we're just going to set up a web app and we're going to deploy it on an EC2 instance, which is also, which you can call it like a virtual machine as well. Now, before I start, a couple things, right? You're going to need to download VS Code, Visual Studio Code. You can just Google it, and then you will also need to download or create an account with GitHub. And then the other thing is, of course, you need to create an account with AWS and create a IAM profile. Okay, but so I'm going to skip over those steps just because I've done it already. But if anything, I'll just mention it so that you know when is that I'm doing that. All right. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. So again, in this 7 project series, we will be creating a CI/CD pipeline to build and deploy a simple web application using AWS code services. And this is what we're going to build. This is what it looks like, right? This is the whole picture. Now, what we're going to focus today is just building this EC2 instance and creating this, web application, as well as using the IAM user profile to do that. Okay, now and also the GitHub. See how I have it right here. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on today. Now, what is CI/CD? Engineers are often working in big teams and collaborating on complex software projects. Managing many changes in a project can get messy without the right processes in place, right? So we want to be able to create a space where developers are just focusing on solely writing code. Okay, and then we are going to worry about like the whole infrastructure and how we're going to automate this whole process from start to finish. Okay, so CI/CD stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment delivery. A pipeline is a key tool to automate the steps from development created by the developers to deployment, which is published to users, which helps software get built and released even faster. In this project of series, you'll learn the basics of building a web app using AWS and another tool called VS Code. These will lay the foundation for your DevOps work for the rest of this series. Something I didn't mention, I've already done part 1 and part 2 before. Just going to do this over again with you guys. So I remember it took me a really long time because I was running through some issues, so I'll be able to now not take as much time on those problems, and I'll be able to direct you better. You can watch this lady too. Looks like she takes almost 3 hours to do it. Um, she's more of an expert. I mentioned it before, but what the difference is that I'm gonna give you more knowledge not only on DevOps or like cloud, but also like the security aspect, like that networking aspect, so that you have a better understanding it, like a broad understanding of what's happening in the background. Okay, so we're going to choose our low touch mode. Remember guys, we want to make it challenging. We want to be able to develop this skill of figuring things out on our own, so this is going to be good to start off. All right, so again, at the end of the project, you'll be able to receive this documentation that's going to showcase everything that we're doing. So and I'll show that at the end so you guys can see what that looks like. Alright, so let's just get started. So here, as you can see, I've answered the first 2 parts. That's because I was just recording, but then I had to pick up a call, so I'm just starting over. Okay, so again, the first thing that we're going to do is set up so what are we going to do here today? So we're going to deploy a basic web app on AWS EC2 instance. Some of the tools that we're going to be using include VS Code, GitHub, Java, and Maven. Okay, Java is going to be the programming language that we're going to use, and then Maven, I can't recall what what it does, but we'll see it later on. Okay, I believe it's like a package that we're going to use for the app, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll take a look at it later. All right, so the first thing that we got to do, guys, is go ahead and set up our IAM user account. So which I already have it. So just go ahead and log in, create one. Remember, we're not going to use the root account. The first thing that you're going to do once you create the account is, of course, create the root account, and then from that root account you're going to create another IAM user, and you're going to follow the steps that are showing you here. Okay. I'm just going to skip over this because I've already done it. So let's see. So we're going to go ahead and start step 2, which is launch an EC2 instance. So let's see where it says here. Before we get into the juicy work of building your web app, we need to set up a home for your web apps file. So we're going to create this environment where we're going to host our web application. Since we want your web app to be entirely created and run on the cloud, we'll use a virtual server, virtual machine, an EC2 instance, right, to house our development work. Let's get an EC2 instance running right now. Okay, so I was just here. So if you go here to the top and look up EC2, you'll get there. It'll take you there. Then you can go to launch instance, and this is where we're going to start entering or like configuring and setting up our virtual machine. All right, so what are we going to name it, guys? Well, here's going to tell us, it's just asking us what we're going to do. We're going to launch an EC2 instance, as well as set up a key pair for secure access, and also configure any networks and just allow us to connect to this network. All right, and we'll see how that's going to happen. All right, so we are going to create it, and we're going to name it like it says here. So we can just do a copy and paste, and we're going to do all right. So what else? Then we're going to create a new key pair. Because I've already done this in the past, I already have a key pair. I don't know if it can be used on a new. I don't think it can, so we'll just create a new one. But let's see what it says. So create a new pair called next pair key pair. Store the download private key into your new folder in your desktop. Name the folder desktop. So if I pull up here my DevOps, yeah, I have a key pair here. So what I'll do is I'll just create another one. That's what I'll do. Okay, so what is a key pair, guys? A key pair is in EC2 is like the keys to your virtual computer. Just like you need a key to unlock and start your car, a key pair lets you securely access your EC2 instance. It's made of two halves: a public key that AWS keeps and a private key that you download. When you use this private key, it verifies that you are the one allowed to access that specific virtual machine, keeping everything secure and just for you. I think this is self-explanatory, right? So whenever we are creating these new instances or anything that we do in general in IT or in software developing, we want to make sure that we are protecting ourselves from outsiders, right? And one way that we do this in this specific case is creating this key pair, right? This key pair, once we create it, is going to AWS is going to store the key, one key, and we're going to store another key on our local machine. That way, when we try to access that instance from Visual Code, which is something that we're going to do today in this project, AWS will be able to verify that we are the ones that have access to this virtual machine because we have the keys. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so if we go back here, I'm just trying to find, so we'll keep the same Amazon Linux virtual machine image. We're going to use our free tier, right? We don't want to pay for anything. Then here where it says instance type, um, you see how it says here free tier eligible. So if we click here, there's a whole bunch of different ones, but we want to keep just the free one that comes already with the account. All right, so we'll keep that the same. All right, so this is where we need the key, right? You see how I created a whole bunch of keys here. I'm just going to create a new one, and I know that it says here that you should name it this if you haven't done this before. I'm gonna name it something different just so that I don't get confused. So I'm gonna do you see how it says that, so I'm going to do keeper, and then I'm gonna do my name. Okay, so we'll do that, and it has to be the key format is going to be PPK. I believe that's what they want us to use. So if we scroll down, let's see if it says it here, SSH. Okay, it doesn't, but if we want to know what this means, so I know that we'll just ask it, right? So private key file format, private key file format, key pairs, what's the difference? All right, so that we have an idea of what this all means. All right. Key pairs are used to securely access EC2 instance via SSH or for cryptographic operations. The private key format depends on the cryptographic algorithm. So the cryptographic algorithm that we're going to use is RSA. Okay, so that's what it means. So let's say a .pem format default for AWS key pairs. Okay, so it is base 64 RSA. So you have these two options. Again, the one we're going to use is RSA. It's used for SSH authentication and signing in to AWS services. So okay, and then PPK, it's for PuTTY, proprietary PuTTY RSA. So no key RSA. So let me just double check and see which one I used before, because okay, so it's going to be a .pem. All right, so we'll make sure we select this one. The reason why is because so I read somewhere that PuTTY it's only for like Windows operating systems, and then the other one, the PEM would be for like Linux machines. I could be mistaken. You see here PuTTY on Windows, and then PEM. PEM is a standard. Yeah, I guess you could use both. So, but in this specific case, we're going to use PEM. Okay. All right. So it looks like PEM can be used with AWS, so that's good. So it doesn't matter if you're on Linux or Windows. But if you're going to use PuTTY, it's only going to be Windows. All right. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll do PEM, and then we'll do create pair. So here is, we're going to select our, you see I'll have the old one, so we're going to save it right here. All right, so we're good. Now we're going to go through the network settings. There's no subnet. We're going to auto assign a public IP address. We're going to, okay, so firewall, create security group, select this. Okay, because we don't have any security groups that we pre-configured on here, we're just going to create a new one at this point. And now here is that we're going to select allow SSH traffic from. It helps you connect to your instance. Okay. Let's see if it tells us if we're going to use anywhere or our public IP address. But let's stop right here and let's see what it says. So okay, so we read this already. So we're going to take a screenshot of our Sorry guys, I feel like I want to sneeze, but I'm trying to hold it. Okay, so um, so if you don't have a tool for screenshots, you can use Screenshot. You can download it from the Play Store. It's completely free. So this is what I use when I want to take screenshots. So let me just take a screenshot of this. I hate to do this every time. Keys. Alright, so downloads keys. Okay, so a key pair is a method of authentication to access the EC2 instance remotely and securely. Alright, okay, so what was downloaded file in your local computer? Once I set up my key pair, AWS automatically downloaded a private key on my local computer for authentication. Okay, so I think so far everything that we're doing makes sense. So let's keep going here. So it says back your EC2 instance setup, allow SSH traffic into your EC2 instance from your IP address. You can check your IP by clicking on here. Okay, so if so here, instead of doing anywhere, right, because we don't want to have just anybody access our resource, we're just going to allow this specific public IP. Okay, so if you click here, it should automatically populate your public IP address. Otherwise, you can just do that. You can go here and it'll tell you your public IP address, and that way you can just copy and paste. All right, so you'll do that. We'll allow that. All right, now configure storage. Let's see if it tells us anything about it, but let's find out first what SSH is. Secure Shell is a protocol used to make sure only authorized users can access a remote server. When you connect to your EC2 instance later in this project, SSH verifies that you have the correct private key that matches the public key on the server, right? So SSH is also a type of network traffic. Once SSH has authorized you, it'll set up a secure connection between you and the EC2 instance. All data transferred, including your commands and the responses from the instance, gets encrypted. This encryption makes SSH an ideal method for working with virtual servers. All right, again, secure. How are we protecting our resources? How are we protecting our network? The only way that we can connect to the EC2 instance is if we access the instance through the GUI, or in this case, what we're going to use is SSH secure shell, right? And everything, as you can see, is going to be encrypted. All right, you'll get a better sense of what this all means later on the project, because we're going to use it is from Visual Studio Code that we're going to SSH into our instance, and you'll see how that looks like. All right, this is cool, guys. If you really want to get your hands on, again, shout out to Nextwork. They're doing an amazing job by allowing us, people are just curious about DevOps, to be able to learn and get their hands dirty with these technologies. This is great, guys. I love it. So shout out to them. All right. So let's state here what is SSH. So SSH is a protocol that establishes a secure and encrypted connection or session between my local machine and the EC2 instance. Okay, I enabled SSH so that I can remote it into the virtual machine directly from my computer. Okay, guys, we're making progress, right? We're moving fast. So this is good. Again, I'm going to stop the recording at probably 30 minutes and just so that I can take a break. But I'll try to make it as smooth as possible, okay? I don't want to upload too many videos. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue. It seems like we are just going to keep this the same. We don't want to mess with the storage. If you want to mess, you could, but they're going to charge you, right, if you're going to upgrade your storage. But in this case, because it's going to be just a basic application, web app, we don't need much storage. Okay, so you see how it says here, free tier eligible customers can get up to 30 gigabits. So that's more than enough. So I think so far we are good as far as setup. So we are going to just go ahead and launch it. Alright guys, first time, well, not my first time, but maybe your guys' first time launching an EC2 instance. Alright, this is good news, exciting news. Alright, so as you can see, if you go here to the main dashboard, you'll be able to see that instance. Now we're just going to give it maybe a couple minutes, a minute or two, for it to, oh, there we go. So now it's running. Alright, so we're good. We got our instance running, guys. So let's go ahead and jump into step number 3. And at this point, we are going to install Visual Studio Code. Alright, so because I already have it, I'm just going to skip over it. But you can just follow these steps, right? Now, I guess one thing that I could talk about is this setting up the terminal within VS Code. Change your permissions. Okay, well, we'll go over this actually because this is really important. All right. Yeah. So what are we going to do? We are going to install Visual Code to develop our web app and also connect to our EC2. Okay, so you can follow those steps. Now if you don't know what Visual Studio Code is, it's one of the most popular tools for creating and managing coding projects. You often hear people call VS Code an IDE, which means software that help you write code and edit it. It's similar to how Microsoft Word or Google Docs help you write documents. Okay. VS Code also comes with extra tools that we'll use to connect to virtual servers like EC2 instances. How do I decide which setting or chip option I should pick? If you're unsure of which chip settings option you should pick, you can follow this. Now, if you're on Windows, you can just do this x64 chip architecture. All right. So we'll open it. I already have your folder. So VS Code. I hope this is it. Let me just double check if that's the right picture. Last month. AWS document. I'm not finding it, guys. Yes, okay. Okay, so yeah, that looks like it's the one. Alright, so we'll keep that the same, and VS Code is an ID and environment that allows us to create projects to develop um, things, stuff, projects, code to develop applications. Develop applications. I install VS Code to develop our web application and also access our EC2 instance. Alright, so let's keep going, guys. So we're making progress. Alright, so if you like, you can customize VS Code colors theme. Yes, you can mess with those things. So then we're going to have a terminal, right? What is a terminal? A terminal is where you send instructions to your computer using text instead of clicks. For example, instead of right-clicking on your desktop to create a new folder, you can type a simple text command into your terminal instead. I bet most of you guys have seen this before. This is like your command prompt, but instead you're going to have it here on Visual Studio Code. So let me open up that folder that I've created. So select folder. Alright. Well, it has this. I don't like that it shows this, but anyway, shouldn't be a big deal. So this is my Visual Studio, right? So I just opened that file, or that file I created. So it's from here that we'll be creating our code. All right. So what does it mean? And then the other thing, right? To open up the terminal, you can just click. All right. So here we have our terminal. Cool. Alright, so our end goal in this step is to connect your EC2 instance by running the PEM file you downloaded when you set up your instance. We need to use terminal to run that PEM file, and right now the terminal can't find it. We're navigating the terminal so that I can get it to the DevOps folder that's stored in your PEM file, so we can run commands to connect to your instance next. What does this command do? Okay, so what are we doing right now? So now that we are here on the terminal, we have to head to that specific path location. Alright, so we're going to do I wonder if we can do cd desktop, and then if we go to DevOps, we'll do that. Now we are on that specific path location, so that's what they're telling us that we need to do. So a terminal is a place to send commands to the operating system. In text format. The first command I run for this project is cd desktop DevOps, right? Okay, so once you are in the DevOps folder, you might want to check if your PEM file. Okay, so now that we're here, we can just type ls, which means like list, and as you guys can see, we do have here our key pair. All right, so we're making progress. So change the permissions of your PEM file. In the terminal, run the following command to allow access to your PEM file. Okay, so we're not going to use this because this is a command for Mac and Linux users. If we scroll down here, yeah, this is going to tell you what that means. But this is what we're going to use for us, for Windows users. So we're going to just go ahead and copy this. We'll head over here and we'll do that. I wanna edit it though. So if we do this, so if we do arrow up, so we're going to run it like one by one, okay? So the first thing that you want to type here is just make sure that this has the right name. In my case, it's Bruno Soria, so we're gonna do reset. Okay, which successfully was processed, right? So let's go ahead into the second command, which is inheritance, okay? And we'll go over about what each of these commands mean in a little bit. Again, let's make sure that we have the right file here. So Soria, cool, and then one more, which is not inheritance. Here, username. Now, be careful here, guys, because I remember I got stuck here for like hours. We don't delete the read here, the art letter. We're just going to change this with our profile name. So if we open up a command prompt and do a who am I, we're going to just copy and paste this whole thing. And I'm going to explain what's going on here in a little bit, don't worry. So also make sure that we are changing this, and that should be good. All right, so if we run these commands the way it's supposed to, we have just granted the correct permissions to the file for us to be able to establish this session or this communication to the EC2 instance that we just created. Okay, so let me put this aside. All right, so make sure to replace username with your Windows. Now, little things, right, that you notice. It says that replace this whole thing. No, we don't replace this whole thing. We will just replace this right here, okay? If you don't know your username, run who am I. That's what I did, right? So if you get stuck for whatever reason, just you can go to the video tutorial, and then you can just follow the lady, or you can also access this community post. All right. Okay, so what is ICALS, right? It stands for Integrity Control Access Control Lists. It's a tool for Windows that lets you decide who can open or change files on your system. In these commands, you are using reset to remove default permissions on settings on the file, on this key file. This command is going to give the current user, so the user that we're going to place here, to have only read access, okay? And then inheritance are to make sure changes in the permissions of other files, and the DevOps folder won't change the permission settings for this file. To make sure changes in the permissions of other files, and the DevOps folder won't change the permission settings. Okay, so basically, right, so if I make a change, this is what it's saying. So if I'm going to make a change to my DevOps, if I'm gonna make any type of permission changes to this folder, it would apply to all these files except our key pair, right? That's what it says. So it won't change the permission setting for this specific file. Right now, again, if you run into any errors, you can check out the community and you can see how to troubleshoot it. All right, so I'm going to just take a quick screenshot of the commands I run. So we're going to do again screenshot. All right, so inheritance. Okay, so let me do this. So what's it called? ICA CLS. Okay, so we'll go ahead and upload it, and let's go ahead and answer those questions. So how did you change your files permissions? I also updated my private keys permissions by running the following commands. Right, so what did we run, guys? We run all of this, so you can just copy and paste those. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here, and then we'll follow up. We'll continue with step number 4 in a little bit. See you guys in a bit.